We're living in a changing world, a world of changing values brought about by aggression. When in May 1940 the German hordes treacherously invaded Holland, they did not reckon with the heroic fight of the Dutch, nor with the loyalty of the Netherlands Empire across the seas. The vast extent of the Netherlands East Indies is demonstrated by contrast with the map of Europe. Holland is under the Nazi heel, but the Netherlands East Indies are free, prepared to fight for the restoration of their motherland. Throughout these islands, the proud spirit of a virile people cries, "The Netherlands shall rise again." Java, precious emerald in Holland's island necklace, derives its name from the Sanskrit Java Dweepa, meaning rice country. In the brief life of man, it is difficult to grasp the significance of the word time. And time has no meaning in these age-old rice fields of Java, one of the richest and most desirable parts of the world, long before the birth of our modern European civilization. Famous Borobudur Temple, sacred to the memory of Buddha, silent witness to the ancient art and culture of the Javanese. In the slow and measured movement of a sacred dance, we see the grace and beauty of this culture handed down through centuries. As of old, batik workers today still decorate sarongs with pictures and patterns from sacred fable and Javanese folklore. This changing world, until the coming of the Dutch, these were isles of piracy, plunder, and sudden death. But with the Dutch came peace and plenty. Java is the most densely populated country in the world. 300,000 Dutchmen, 1.5 million Chinese, and over 65 million natives, known as Indonesians, live together in harmony. The enlightened government of such a vast number of people by a handful of peace-loving Dutch is mainly due to the Dutchman's freedom from racial prejudice and his genius for colonial administration. This has brought to the people of all the islands a sense of physical and economic security. As they pound their washing in Batavia's canals, they are as happy as children, for above all, they have security to fish their warm seas, to sell their catch in the marketplace. For the Dutch have built powerful defenses to protect them and their fair cities, such as Batavia, capital of the Indies, with an age-old history where buildings of the most modern architecture form a striking contrast with the picturesque native quarters and stately examples of old Dutch architecture. Batavia's city hall was old before Australia was discovered. Jan Pieterszoon Koen, first Governor-General, established Dutch authority when he founded Batavia in 1619. This memorial to General van Huytz is a tribute to the man who unified the whole of the East Indies under Dutch guidance. The Volksraad, the Indies Parliament, opened by His Excellency Governor-General van Starkenborg, faced the gravest of threats from Japan. When the Nazis made Holland flow with the blood of innocent women and children, the Indies did not collapse. The motto of the House of Orange, "I will maintain," inspired the determined Dutch to fight shoulder to shoulder with Britain. On a flying visit to the Indies, Foreign Minister Dr. Van Kleffens, seen here with the Governor-General, recently stated, "The line which runs from Singapore across the Indies to Australia must be considered as a unit. and attack upon any point along this line must be treated as an attack upon the whole line. The Indies are ready to fight in defense of Malaya, Australia, and the Indies. The Commander-in-Chief, Lieutenant General Tir Porton, discusses vital Indies strategy with his staff. Gushing rivers of oil, essential for peace and vital for war. These wells, coveted by aggressors, are mined and ready to be blown to the skies should they be endangered by an invader. Properly employed, these fountains of wealth and power are a blessing to humanity, but to a peace-loving humanity, not a bellicose one. Leader of the Japanese trade delegation, Mr. Kenkichi Yoshizawa, is being heartily farewelled, whilst Mr. Van Mook, Minister for Economic Affairs, looks on. The Japanese had been informed that oil supplies could not be made available, as the Indies government had declared that preference would be given to its allies. Mr. Yoshizawa was told to tell Japan that the East Indies would not tolerate domination by any country. Australian Minister Senator Foll told Admiral Helfrich, Australia and the Netherlands East Indies stand together. Common interests and mutual sympathy demand unity of effort and purpose in peace and war. Admiral Helfrich emphasizes the importance of certain aspects of the defense of the Indies and Australia. Posters illustrate the rallying spirit of the Dutch and the millions of Indonesians. Flags of Britain and Holland, side by side, symbol of a common cause. And this British bomber arrives in Batavia with Minister Duff Cooper, evidence of British and Dutch cooperation. Duff Cooper later walks and talks with the Governor-General in the garden of his palace in Burtonsroad. Something more than the weather was discussed. British-Dutch cooperation in Batavia's Spitfire building. On coat lapels and public buildings are the words, Nederland zal herrijzen, the Netherlands shall rise again, and the Netherlands shall rise again by the strength and courage of its people and the natural wealth of the Indies. Rubber, like oil, is vital in war and peace, and together with all the other products of these bountiful islands, provides the means to buy machine tools and steel to make shells and bombs. The sugar crops of these vast plantations are prolific and profitable. A large proportion of the world's tea is grown in Java, picked by thousands of Indonesian women. Great quantities of rosella fiber are grown to make sacks in which sugar is exported. Tapioca grows abundantly. These islands, known for centuries as the Spice Islands, are the pantry of the Western Pacific. Paraffin wax and other petroleum products are shipped to the four corners of the earth. These Indies are virtually the world's exclusive producer of quinine, extracted from the bark beaten from the cinchona tree. When Holland was invaded, over 1 million tons of Dutch shipping escaped, and today thousands of staunch Dutch sailors carry these products to Britain in defiance of Hitler. In the intricate patterns made by Javanese silversmiths is embodied the art of many centuries. The delicate work of the silversmith is now applied to the steel of the munition worker. Thousands of Javanese have given up agriculture and village occupations for the engineering shop. In no way has the traditionally unchanging East changed so greatly as in putting aside the arts of peace for those of war, in order to defend the security of its people. The Indies' war effort is indeed an amazing growth. Dutchmen and Javanese work side by side, producing mines, bombs, and shells. TNT, Indonesians have dropped the cane knife to casually stir and pour death-dealing explosives. Great reserves of munitions have been built up. Tens of thousands of shells and bombs have been made and stored, ready for any emergency. Workers pour out of munition plants and shipyards. guards, trained and ready to meet any invader. Military exercises keep them ever on the alert. Undeterred by tropical heat, recruits train energetically for every phase of modern warfare. Cavalry regiments are used in terrain unsuitable for mechanized units. Pack artillery cross mountains and jungle streams, the horses being of the same tough Australian breed used by the armies of many nations. The late Commander-in-Chief of the Army, General Berenschot, was justly proud of his horsemen, but his advocacy for preparedness and the modernization of the NEI Army will be long remembered. Today, these Dutch and Javanese soldiers are ready, equipped and trained for modern warfare, and willing to die in defense of their security. Land cruisers, speedy, deadly instruments of shattering fire, expertly and daringly handled. They are today a common sight on roads and fields of modern Java. Both drivers and machines can take and give hard knocks, as demonstrated by the Blitz buggy. Pontoon bridges are quickly thrown across rivers, and smoke screens laid to hide movements from an enemy. In these scenes of war preparedness, Australia is vitally concerned because the actions of the Dutch determine the molding of the strategic plan of the Pacific democracies. America, the British Commonwealth, China, and the Dutch Empire, the ABCD line of liberty. Wholehearted cooperation between the Pacific neighbors is essential to safeguard their Pacific interests. The people of Australia, New Zealand, and Malaya stand behind these men of the NEI who are in the forefront of their common line of defense. Dutch guns stand ready to support joint action in the Pacific should the need arise. Road obstructions are erected to halt enemy mechanized units, and combined with jungle, rivers, and mountains, form the strongest of barriers. ARP services are organized, the workers ready, inspired by the people of the British Isles, whose greatness in adversity has been an example to the world. Air raid shelters. The Indies have learned from Rotterdam's ghastly toll that civilian protection is as important as military preparedness. Aerodrome obstructions prevent enemy landings. Razor-edged bamboo spikes to impale descending parachutists. Seaplane obstructions on canals and rivers, and barbed wire entanglements. The NEI Air Arm, a strong force of fighters and bombers of the latest American type, is a challenge to any aggressor in the Pacific. Long before the war, the Dutch realized the striking power of bombers over narrow straits and the protective powers of fighters to screen cities and oil wells. Air crews are tested in this low-pressure chamber, which reveals any physical disability at high altitudes. Technical plants are equipped with latest devices upon which may depend the outcome of a decisive air fight. Large numbers of rooster buffalo fighters imported from America and Australian-made tiger moth trainers teach Indies youth to fly. Major General Van Ooyen, commander of the military air arm, watches the trainees at work and sees a Lodestar troop carrier from which a parachutist bails out. Every plane has its load of bombs ready for immediate action. From Timor to Sumatra, a distance of 1,500 miles, the Dutch have completed a chain of modern, strategically placed aerodromes and flying boat bases. Pilots and air crews from these islands are today shooting down Germans over England, over Italy, and over Germany in aircraft bought by thousands of regular contributors to the Spitfire Fund in the Netherlands Indies. Training planes from the Fleet Air Arm taxi off for instructions flight from one of the flying boat bases which dot the Indies archipelago. These bases complete a chain between New Zealand, Australia, the Netherlands East Indies, Malaya, and even further westward. Bombers can be flown from the United States to Malaya and the Indies in convenient stages. The spirit of the Dutch Navy is the spirit of its adventurous seafaring ancestors. The strength of the naval bases at Surabaya and Amboina has been increased to meet any contingency, and the strategic position of these bases is of special significance to Timor and Northern Australia. It's to the credit of the Navy and the Fleet Air Arm that not a merchant ship has been lost through enemy action in the busy waters of the Indies. Submarines and mine layers patrol strategic waters. Torpedo boats built in Java have stainless steel hulls to protect them against tropical marine growths. They are fitted with 3 aero engines, depth charge apparatus, anti-aircraft guns, and torpedo tubes, from which they launch their deadly freight whilst traveling at 40 miles an hour. The people of the Dutch East Indies stand on guard. Above the sea and under the sea, these people are on the alert should war come to the East Indies. The Governor-General arrives for the celebrations of Queen Wilhelmina's birthday. The spirit of the gathering in Batavia is symbolized by the song, "The Netherlands Shall Rise Again." It is a sight to cheer the saddened hearts of the Dutch, whose people are under the oppressor's heel in Holland. It is proof of the strong ties binding the Dutch and the races of the Netherlands East Indies. And it is marching evidence that the peoples of the Isles of Courage shall see the Netherlands rise again. The men of the Dutch East Indies march. The people of Holland impatiently await their day of deliverance from the Germans. In these isles they wonder, will their peace be shattered by shrieking shell and bursting bomb? Will the sylvan peace of this quiet native life be wrecked by the new order of high explosives? Will the work, the culture, the happiness, the ordered security of these people and their children go down beneath the might of the aggressor? They do not know, but in this changing world, Queen Wilhelmina knows that the power and the might of the British Commonwealth and America will fight to protect these Isles of Courage.